Hello there, it's the 3rd of March and this is Race to Power on WION The World is One. I'm Eric Njoka. US President Donald Trump is set to make his first address to Congress in the next 2 days. The joint session comes amid a fallout between America and Ukraine over efforts to end the war that erupted into a three-way brawl between Trump, Zelensky and VP J.D. Vance. We'll look at what happens next. And China's capital is getting ready to once again host thousands of delegates from across the country for what are its biggest political meetings every year, the 2 sessions. We tell you what that meeting means for China's economy and the world. Welcome to the show. It is a new week, but the unprecedented public diplomatic fallout between US and Ukraine is still making waves not just for President Zelensky, but also for Europe. While the Ukrainian president is back in his war-torn nation after a whirlwind visit, a lot transpired over the weekend and more high-level meetings are expected ahead. Let's unpack where the current power dynamics stand soon after US President Donald Trump and his number 2, J.D. Vance, doubled down on Zelensky at the Oval. European leaders opened their arms to the Ukrainian president. London hosted a special summit on Sunday led by Keir Starmer. The leadership rallied behind Zelensky. UK, France and Ukraine agreed to present a peace plan to the US. Zelensky says that Kiev would still like to sign a minerals deal with Washington and that one moment cannot define the relationship between the two nations. But it remains to be seen if this is a sentiment that Trump agrees with.
Dignity is one of our values, and I believe that as president, I must defend the dignity of Ukrainian soldiers, of all our people, which is what, basically, I do. And soldiers, our people, have shown everyone that it is their right to be free, and that this is a war for independence. It's a matter of values, it is not about money.
Meanwhile, European nations are looking at an action-packed week ahead as leaders scrambled to determine a way out for Ukraine and also embolden their own defenses. On Tuesday, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will inform EU member states about plans to strengthen the region's defense infrastructure and military capabilities. Just hours ago, European Council President Antonio Costa announced a special European Council will be held on Thursday in order to approve concrete decisions aimed at increasing the bloc's defense capabilities. EU leaders and Ukraine's president are invited to Brussels for this summit.
No one more than Ukrainians want peace, and of course we are supporting them to achieve this lasting peace. Peace is not just a ceasefire. We offer Russia more time to come again stronger. What we want is a just and lasting peace.
Meanwhile, the power corridors in Washington are echoing with calls for Zelensky to step down. Trump's national security advisor Mike Waltz said that Ukraine needs a leader who can negotiate with US, Russia and subsequently end the war. Although the Ukrainian leader has reiterated his willingness to step down in exchange for NATO's membership for Ukraine, Zelensky says that it will not be easy to replace him. In the coming few weeks, European leaders and Zelensky have their work cut out to find a way back into America's diplomatic folds. Question is, at what cost will Trump allow it? So there are a couple of summits and council meetings to be held in the coming weeks. And this is Europe rallying behind Volodymyr Zelensky as the president of Ukraine. And these meetings and summits come after the brawl between President Trump, his vice president, J.D. Vance, and the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, at the Oval on Friday. That brawl has caused a lot of geopolitical tensions and ramifications. And now Europe is rallying behind Ukraine and is seeking peace. It says that they cannot allow Russia to extend the war to their corridors or to their fences or to their countries. And this comes after European leaders, led by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, held a 2-hour-long summit in London in the presence of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And that summit ended yesterday with Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying that they will present their peace plan to President Donald Trump. Let's talk to our guest now. Ben Aris is the founder and editor-in-chief of BNE IntelliNews, is now joining us live on this broadcast from Berlin, Germany. Mr. Aris, good to see you, and thank you very much for making time for us. I'll just quickly go to my first question, which is, we've seen the brawl that happened on Friday. We've seen the ramifications of that brawl. There are now, the tensions are brewing as we speak. Russia and America are playing on the same playbook. They say that Kiev is not willing to find peace. President Zelensky needs to go, and then they can have talks with Ukraine to find lasting peace. Do you think the summit or the agreements made by European leaders will be watered down going forward?
In so much as, relations between Zelensky and the White House have been categorically broken. The Americans are refusing to talk to him. They're stopping all the aid to Ukraine immediately to be confirmed. And at the same time, Zelensky flew from Washington to Europe, where he was well received. And there was an outpouring of support for him. But now they're very conscious, the Europeans, that they need to rescue this relationship and restart the dialogue, carry the can. And this talk of the Europeans putting together a peace plan to present to the Americans, Trump is in the driving seat. I mean, he's already decided what he wants to do. He's already in negotiations with the Russians. The Europeans have been excluded. And so he's in a position to completely ignore any plan that they put forward. They have no leverage over him whatsoever. He has the leverage because he has the money, he has the arms they need. So I'm not actually expecting much. I think Europe is now scrambling to try and find some position where it is relevant. And at the end of the day, it's going to be relevant in so much as America's going to cut Ukraine off, and Europe is going to take the whole burden, but both military and financial.
Mr. Ben Aris, I'm sorry to cut you short. Mr. Ben Aris, I'm really sorry to cut you short, but I'm afraid we'll not continue with this conversation because your connection is very poor. But all said and done, thank you very much for your time. We'll have to leave it there for now. The U.S. president is all set to make his first joint address to the U.S. Congress on Tuesday, more than 1 month after returning to the White House. Just moments ago, Donald Trump posted on his social media platform, Truth Social, in which he said, and I quote, "Tomorrow night will be big. I will tell it like it is." Trump's speech comes after weeks of executive orders and cabinet decisions to completely overhaul the way administration is run in the United States. Tariff walls, a crackdown on illegal immigrants, mass layoffs of federal workers, and revoking the system of diversity hires. All major moves made by the Trump administration since January 20th have sent shockwaves, triggered protests across the country, and also opened the gateways to a flurry of lawsuits. But many are also supportive of these moves, which Trump loyalists feel are necessary to slash public spending and reform American administration. This time, the Trump administration set up the Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk, to slash spending by $1 trillion. Back in 2017, when Trump addressed the U.S. in his first term, the Republican leader asked lawmakers to approve $1 trillion worth of funding to invest in America's infrastructure.
To launch our national rebuilding, I will be asking Congress to approve legislation that produces a $1 trillion investment in infrastructure of the United States, financed through both public and private capital, creating millions of new jobs.
No doubt, Trump's speech also comes on the heels of a very public war of words with Ukrainian president, casting a shadow over the warring country's future and raising concerns over negotiations of peace with Russia. All right, let's talk to our correspondent in the United States. Susan Teherani is now joining us from New York. Good to see you, Susan. And a lot has happened in the last 2 days or the last weekend. Bring us up to speed with what to expect with Donald Trump's first speech to the Congress.
Yeah, Eric, I thought it was really interesting. You read his social media post on Truth Social that he's going to tell it like it is, as if we were expecting anything else from Donald Trump. It's going to be very frank. It's going to be blunt. I expect it to be very different from the speech that they had prepared prior to Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to the White House and that Oval Office fiasco. He is going to talk about Ukraine, the path forward, what he plans to do. It'll be interesting to see how politicians react. It's going to be really a split Congress between the Democrats and Republicans. And while behind him, usually the Speaker of the House and Vice President sit, people are very interested to see where Elon Musk is going to be seated during that speech. He wants to talk about spending cuts, border security, and tax cuts. And while border security has brought Republicans and Democrats together, the issue of spending cuts and tax cuts is going to be a very fraught issue as he brings it up. Expect Republicans to stand up and clap, while the Democrats perhaps will see how they want to react. But, you know, ultimately, when it comes at least to domestic issues, regardless of who's president, we don't really expect to see a lot of detail, but we are going to sort of see an outline of where he wants to go.
Susan, I am so sure that you really want to talk about the brawl at the Oval Office. That spiraled out of control. What are Americans saying about that incident on Friday?
It's interesting. The people that saw the last half of that brawl on social media are siding with Volodymyr Zelensky, but people who saw the entire thing, which was about an hour or so, we were on air, of course, carrying it live. We all saw it. They say that perhaps Volodymyr Zelensky stepped out of bounds, and he's not very politically or diplomatically savvy to sit in the Oval Office and talk to his host like that. Ultimately, what was also very interesting, Eric, I want to bring this up. Yesterday, the UK ambassador to the US broke ranks with 10 Downing Street and said Volodymyr Zelensky has to listen to Donald Trump, come to the negotiating table immediately and sign this mineral deal under Trump's terms. Of course, Ted Downing Street reacted to that less than 24 hours later, saying, well, that's not really our position. He doesn't really carry that much political weight, the ambassador in the United States. Our position is very different. We'll even put boots on the ground. So you can see that despite what the UK says, it seems that even within their own government, they're scrambling. And I think Europe is also hoping that somehow the United States and Ukraine can come together. I just finally just want to say that I think it was very interesting that all of this is happening, of course, in the public sphere. Volodymyr Zelensky is watching. And of course, everything that I mentioned, the American people have been watching, and they're going to go into the speech by President Trump with all of this baggage and backstory, so to say. So it'll be very interesting to watch tomorrow.
All right. Susan Teherani, as always, good to see you. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you. 1 week after huge losses in the federal elections, Germany's Social Democrats achieved a much-needed victory in the state election held in Hamburg on Sunday. SPD, led by Peter Taschentscher, got about 33.5% to 33.7% of the votes, maintaining its position as the largest party in Hamburg, despite a major decline from 2020 when the party secured over 39.2% of votes. The party maintained a clear lead over its rivals and a strong regional support was clear. The centre-right Christian Democratic Union came in second with around 20% of the vote. The Green Party, which currently shares power in a coalition government with the SPD, got 18.5% of the vote. The far-left Die Linke achieved its best-ever result in Hamburg with 11%, while the far-right Alternative for Germany gained 8% of the vote, showing a modest increase. Taschentscher, the incumbent mayor of Hamburg, has secured his second consecutive victory in the Hamburg state election.
We were supposed to be overtaken by the right and the left, if you remember the announcements from our political competitors. But they did not succeed. We are way ahead of the other parties. And there is another great message. And I think we would like to thank all the voters in Hamburg for keeping the ill-tempered right-wingers at bay in Hamburg. That's a fantastic message. The AfD hopefully scored below 10%.
Coalition talks are already underway after these results came in. According to reports, the SPD is likely to continue its current coalition with the Greens. Taschentscher also expressed a willingness to explore talks with the CDU. Iran's cabinet is in the thick of a storm, one that has shaken its foundations. In the past 48 hours, in a major setback to President Masoud Pezeshkian, the administration has seen the exit of two senior leaders. Early in the day, Iran's vice president resigned from the post. According to Iran state media, Mohammad Javad Zarif submitted his resignation to the president, who is yet to respond. Zarif posted on social media platform X, alleging that he spent 40 years of his career facing insults, slander and threats against him and the family. The post went on to say, and I quote, "To avoid further pressure on the government, the head of the judiciary recommended that I resign, and I accepted it immediately." Zarif earlier served as Iran's foreign minister and is known for his critical role in negotiating Iran's 2015 nuclear deal with the US and other countries. However, his role as Pezeshkian's number two has been fraught with uncertainty. Zarif became Iran's vice president for strategic affairs on August 1st last year. However, he resigned in less than 2 weeks. The 65-year-old reformist then returned to his vice presidential role within a month of stepping aside. Zarif's resignation comes as the latest shocker for Pezeshkian's government. On Sunday, the parliament voted to impeach Iran's finance minister Abdul Nasser Hemati. The 68-year-old lost a vote of confidence with only 182 lawmakers voting in his favor, as opposed to 273 who voted against him. Impeachment proceedings are now underway for Hemati over high inflation and spiraling value of the Iran's currency. An 11-member Bangladeshi delegation is in India for talks regarding Ganga Water Treaty due for renewal in 2026. The Ganga Water Treaty was signed in 1996 by then Indian Prime Minister H.D. Deve Gowda and his Bangladeshi counterpart Sheikh Hasina. It is a 30-year treaty that will expire in 2026. The Bangladeshi team, led by Mohammed Abdul Hossain, a member of the Joint River Commission, will be at the Faraka in West Bengal, which is the joint observation site on the Ganga till March 5th. The delegation will return to Kolkata for a 2-day meeting of the India-Bangladesh Joint River Commission on March 6th and 7th. The 86th meeting of the Joint Committee of Technical Experts is taking place for the first time after Sheikh Hasina was ousted from her position as Prime Minister of Bangladesh. During Hasina's last official visit to New Delhi in June 2024, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that the two sides had decided to begin technical negotiations for the renewal of the treaty. Signed in December 1996, the treaty addresses the sharing of water from the Ganga River between the two countries. India and Bangladesh agreed to renew the treaty mutually, and for monitoring the implementation of the treaty, a joint committee was set up. Ganga Water Treaty is one part of a larger water sharing relationship between the two countries. West Bengal is a key stakeholder. The Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee had written to the Prime Minister that the move to renew the Ganga Waters Treaty was unilateral and that the West Bengal government was not consulted. However, federal Indian government officials pointed out that an internal committee set up by the Jal Shakti Ministry in July 2023 included representatives from the Bihar and West Bengal governments, the two states through which the Ganga River flows before entering Bangladesh. Discussions are also continuing with Bangladesh for sharing of waters of Tista and Feni rivers besides other 6 common rivers. Now, one of China's biggest annual major political events gets underway on Tuesday. The meeting of the legislature, called the Two Sessions Meeting, will endorse decisions and directions already made by the all-powerful Chinese Communist Party. The meetings, expected to last around a week, are important as the country's rubber-stamp parliament retains a key function to signal the priorities of the government for the coming year and to disseminate instructions to party members and officials across the country. Our Beijing correspondent for the Associated Press, Ken Moritsugu, explains the context of the meetings.
It's the two sessions because an advisory body with about 2,000 members will also meet. So in all, more than 5,000 delegates will descend on the nation's capital. How is it ceremonial? The votes by the Congress are nearly unanimous and rubber-stamped decisions made earlier by the Communist Party. In China, real power lies in the leadership of the party. So why does it matter? The party uses the week-long meeting to telegraph its plans and policies for the rest of the year. The premier, considered the number 2 official after party leader Xi Jinping, delivers an annual government work report to the Congress. The report includes the government's target for annual economic growth. The closely watched figure reflects both the government's ambition and expectations in what are challenging economic times.
Here is what else is making headlines in the world of elections and politics. Austria's 3-party coalition government has been sworn in, with Christian Stocker taking charge as the country's new chancellor. The coalition brings together Stocker's Conservatives, Austrian People's Party, the center-left Social Democrats and the liberal Neos. This marks the end of record 5 months of wait for a new government in Austria. The ruling People's Democratic Party of Tajikistan, led by President Emomali Rahmon, clinched a decisive victory in the country's parliamentary elections, securing 12 out of 22 seats allocated through party lists. The win cements the grip of Emomali Rahmon over Tajikistan's politics. Rahmon came to power in Tajikistan amid a devastating civil war in the early 1990s, following the country's transition to independence from the Soviet Union. And Namibian founding president Sam Nujoma, also known as last African liberator, has been laid to rest after a state funeral attended by African leaders and foreign dignitaries. Sam Nujoma steered the country to freedom from South Africa. Nujoma died on the 8th of February after prolonged illness. Namibia observed a 21-day mourning period. Nujoma's remains were flown to 7 regions, including his village, allowing hundreds of thousands of Namibians to pay their respects. And that's the latest on this edition of Race to Power. Thank you for watching. This is WION The World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchange